where you ultimately, want your career to go. But importantly, I think for this township, what I have learned, being new into local government, is the importance of having an experienced township manager. You've taught us just in the few months a tremendous amount, and I think you've been uncovering things that, and not that anything was negligent, it's just that he's uncovering ways, because he has so much experience from other townships, different ways of looking at things, making them maybe more efficient, less costly, different ideas. So really opening my eyes to the importance of, having somebody with experience in here, I think is really, really beneficial. He made it a lot easier for, I think, even speaking for Bill, for us, because there was just so many things that you just quickly just brought up, like, oh, why did you do this? Or what's this? Or, oh, I read through this. Here's some information. I think you could look at doing this differently. So I think I really appreciate all that you've brought just in the past few months, the importance of having an experienced manager.
You're welcome, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. You definitely made the transition for us a whole lot easier here. You can come on in. And I, not to, say exactly what Lisa said, but I was extremely disappointed, that you did this. But ultimately, I did understand what you're doing, and it's, not my place not to tell you not to proud yourself. But this community's loss is your new employer's game, is what I think. And you were everything that everybody told us you were gonna be. So you're leaving a big set of shoes to be filled here, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you.
And I'll still be calling you. With that said, do we want to introduce another candidate that we had here? Is Mr. Sean will be taking over for Aaron here. This will be a seamless transition. Again, another gentleman with extensive experience in managing townships, budgets and things like that, but I'll let him tell you about himself.
I think before we get into that, I think we jumped right into that. I just want to let you all know that, like where he came from. He just didn't walk in. But obviously, as we said, we were really disappointed that Aaron had taken another opportunity. So we immediately said to him, "Hey, can you help connect us with people in the circle of township management that might be open to interviewing or considering whether it was a full-time replacement or even an interim solution for us, so that we didn't miss a beat." We knew Aaron was going to be on vacation, so his last day is Friday, but he actually had 2 weeks off already scheduled for a family vacation. So we knew that we were under a really short time frame, and if we were going to go and do what we did the last time and put it out, open it right up immediately, it was going to take several months before we could potentially fill his shoes. So he graciously brought us a couple candidates. We met with them, and so that we would try not to miss a beat here, because we just have learned so much from him. We knew that the gap would be kind of a setback. So
perfect. Sean, would you like to come up and introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name's Sean Halbum. I'm very grateful to the board and Aaron. Thank you for reaching out and providing me with this opportunity. Most recently, I was the township manager in Worcester Township, Montgomery County, so Lansdale area, if you know where that is. Prior to that, I was with White Marsh Township as their assistant manager, and with the county of Montgomery for about 6 years prior to that. So, yes, I have extensive experience with second-class townships. I'm very excited to do a quick transition with Aaron and build off this great work and getting to know you all a little bit better. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
great. Thank you.
All right. So the next is an ordinance.
Nope. Make a motion to appoint Sean as your interim manager.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Skip this. We're sitting right next to it. Go ahead. Lisa.
I don't want to say, your last name is Halbum?
Yes.
Yeah. That's it. I make a motion to appoint Sean Halbum as the interim manager for Upper Frederick Township.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, and just, I think, we're appointing him as interim so that we have a chance to really kind of assess. Potentially it could be Sean, it could be another candidate altogether. We just did not want to have a gap here again. We felt that that was too important to not have a gap. So thank you again for stepping up on short notice.
Okay. Public hearing on ordinance number 2024-02. It's an amendment to the zoning ordinance. And what this ordinance does is it removes row homes from the R60 medium housing district and reaffirms that housing stock in R40 dense housing districts. This ordinance increases the frontage needed for each row home from 25 feet to 50 feet. It just allows for better parking is why we've done this. The ordinance also increases the lot size of row homes by 33% to allow for bigger yards. Is what this is. Are there any questions or concerns regarding this ordinance?
No, but let me talk for a minute.
Sure, yeah.
The other thing, just because this is going to be important later, is that it also increases the parking requirement for single-family attached, which are townhomes, to 3 spaces per dwelling unit. So this ordinance originated at your planning commission. It is recommended by your planning commission. It is a zoning ordinance amendment, so we must follow all MPC procedures, which included sending a copy of this to the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and we got a review from them very late today, hot off the presses. The only comment that they had to the ordinance was that they actually recommend less parking than what we are putting forth here. Specifically, they say that the average number of spaces that they recommend for townhouses is 2.5 spaces. And they actually suggest that the total number be somewhere between 1.5 and 2 spaces, and that you allow garage parking spaces to be counted towards parking requirements. Their final comment on the issue was, furthermore, residents should utilize on-street parking for guests and households that have more than 2 vehicles. The County Planning Commission's comments are advisory. They are not, you do not have to follow them. If parking is an issue and you see that 3 spaces is what you would like to stay with. Because it is a zoning ordinance amendment, it was advertised twice, once a week for 2 weeks, on the 31st of July and August 6th in the Mercury. So all the steps are in place if you so desire to enact the zoning ordinance this evening. Now you can ask for questions. Sorry.
From the public, is there any questions?
What are the visitor parking? Is there a rule and regulation for that in the development? I mean, I've been to Perk and Crossings to visit with people. It's like, where do you park?
So right now, there isn't a specific issue that addresses visitor parking, but by increasing the parking requirement to 3 spots per unit, that should help account for more. That should help account for some of the visitors and people who have more than 2 vehicles per household.
Got a family with kids.
Exactly, exactly.
Bill?
That we have a little less on the street.
A comment, I've done some research on this as far as parking. And essentially, it seems somewhere over 70% of homes that do not have a basement but have a garage end up using the garage for storage. So the garages are virtually useless as far as parking areas.
For sure.
And I think we should stick to our guns as far as demanding of 3 car parking, irrespective of a garage.
I totally agree with you. That's why we put that language in there the way we did.
Stay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, as long as, anybody else have any other comment? I don't know.
So I was wondering, well, if I agree with that,
Yes.
more parking is better. Will that hold up? Or like, can somebody dispute that, like a builder? Or is that, once we do it, it's set in stone and we're good?
Well, they could certainly come in and try to argue that they don't need that many spaces, but when it's written in the ordinance like that, they would have to go to the zoning hearing board and get a variance to have a lesser amount.
Okay.
Hanson, does overflow parking count, or do they have to be in front of the units? Because a lot of the developments have, like, areas, like the crossing does, up where they're not in front of the units. Can they count them as part of the parking spots?
They would be able to, but so that would have to be part of the plan review. Like,
Okay.
we would have to look at the plan with our engineer and decide whether or not we thought what they were proposing was sufficient. But yes, they would be able to be counted if they were separate like that.
Anybody else? Okay.
So then we would close the public hearing, and then you can move on to the next agenda, which is to consider adoption of the ordinance.
Okay. Okay, so everybody, you had a chance to review, Lisa, you're okay? I would like to go ahead and stick with, what we had originally sent up to county. I agree with Mr. Petosa. I think I would like to just stick with what we already have. Yeah,
I agree.
makes sense.
With the 3 cars,
Sure.
3 parking spots, okay.
Right.
I make a motion to approve, what?
No.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
What
we
did
already
she
did,
say?
yeah, we did.
She closed it, I thought. I make a motion to accept ordinance 2024-02.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think we addressed that, Dave, the overflow parking earlier this year too. I thought we did something on that. I'll definitely relook at that.
Yeah, because I know that's an easy way for a builder to get around 3 parking spots. He can build a lot 200 feet down the road
Yeah.
and say, there's the 3rd spot for each unit.
Right, and I think that was part of the conversation why we did do that.
Just it had to be so close.
You're right. Right.
And each parking spot has to be direct access to the street. They can't be front and back, correct?
I don't know if the ordinance says that or not, to be honest, I would have to check.
Administrative, so what we have is,
So the next agenda item is, there's
Yeah.
previously, the AC on the administrative office side quit on us. Previously, the board had approved monies to have that repaired. When I came in, I did an evaluation of the unit. It's an 18-year-old HVAC system, average lifespan is 12 to 15 years. So I believe it's not worth throwing money into an old system, especially, $6,000, $7,000 to repair something that could possibly break in a year or two because of its age. So I went ahead and obtained 3 quotes to do a split unit on that half the building. I believe that's going to be our most cost-effective way of replacing that unit and the best for the township as well. The 3 quotes that I got, I am recommending that we go with Wallace Services in the amount of $6,690.00, and then we authorize Steve Heller to make that contract and have that installed.
And that was the lesser of the 3 estimates?
Yes, that is the low estimate.
okay. All right, so I make a motion to approve Steve to get a contract with Wallace Services in the amount of $6,690 for the repair of the HVAC unit over on the administrative side.
A second
The
motion.
split unit. not the-
The split unit, the split unit, yeah. And it did say it really good too. All right, so let me redo that. I make a motion to have Steve enter into a contract with Wallace Services in the amount of $6,690, no cents, for the replacement of the HV unit with the split unit.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It'd be nice to get full air conditioning over there, huh?
It will be nice.
On your way
Time
out,
for the
then-
fall.
That's right.
Sean
So
appreciates
the next agenda item is,
Will that do heating as well, or is there different, I guess it's different heating? Okay, never mind.
is ordinance 2024-03 to the subdivision land development ordinance to address the water quality. This is what Buck was talking about earlier, that has to do with the water quality. taken 4 different samples to establish a baseline within a mile perimeter around the wells. And this is just to make sure everybody maintains their impeccable water that we have here.
Like participation is voluntary. If property owners do not want to have their well tested, they are not required to.
Right.
So since this is a subdivision and land development ordinance, this has to follow a similar procedure to the zoning ordinance. So what this is for tonight is for you to authorize me to submit it to the Montgomery County Planning Commission, if that's okay with you. And then once we allow the 30 days to elapse that they have to review, we would put it on an upcoming agenda for a public hearing again, just like we did for the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Any public comment?
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Jackie Wagner on Perk Emerville Road. So my question is just if you come into the township after the time starts to test the well quality, are you still able then to test your well within a certain time frame? Like, is that addressed in the ordinance, or is when does the testing have to be done of your water quality?
So the testing
Like
is...
a baseline, I assume.
The testing is done at the time that the developer who's going to be putting in the well that will be drawing that much out, at the time that they submit their preliminary plan approval, this information has to be provided. So it would be whoever was in those houses at that time.
Okay, and then what's the time frame then after for retesting the water quality?
So it's set to be tested, the baseline testing would be quarterly. So once every season, as Buck indicated, and then after that, it would be if you had an issue with your well. So if you were experiencing an issue with your well, it would be tested, and then if there was something wrong with it, the developer would be responsible for bringing it back up to the baseline that had been established by the prior testing.
And for how long do you test it?
So the way that the ordinance is written is, number one, they would be providing an escrow per house that they're going to be building in order so that the township would have money if for some reason they weren't here or they weren't doing the testing. And that testing would be done, that would just be when the fund was exhausted. So it would be...
7 years or 90%.
Yes, thank you. So 7 years after the last unit.
7 years after the last unit, or when the 90th% of units are built, whichever is sooner.
They have
That's
to
right.
keep testing the water quality that long?
If there's an issue.
If there's an issue,
if
you are
there's an
allowed
issue.
to make a complaint up to those timelines.
But if you don't get in as a current homeowner at the time of the development beginning, you then can't test your water quality, or can you opt in later even if you're a resident now?
You could still have it tested on your own. But for the developer's responsibility, it would, hopefully the homeowner that you bought from would have opted into the program, and then you would be able to take over under their opt-in.
Okay. I mean, I'm also thinking of people that don't know to test their water quality now.
Sure.
And then a year from now, they're like, wait, I could have had my water quality tested?
So there's
And how do they-
notification requirements in year 2. They have to notify the residents that they're going to offering this testing service, and then each resident would have the ability to opt in or opt out. Because I know some people might not want somebody coming into their home to test their well, and that's certainly your right to do.
Leakin Road's Figleysville is. On that testing, is that just water quality, or does that also include water flow, or water flow is something the developer does separate
So-
somewhere else?
This one is just quality. The township last year adopted one that had to do with quantity, that required the same type. It's a kind of like a mirror image ordinance. One was for quality, one was for quantity. So yes, there is a quantity requirement in place already.
For each homeowner's well that's being tested?
It's similar.
Or just for the development itself?
No, for each homeowner who has a well within that specified vicinity, a mile of the well that's being drilled.
So all that testing would draw down a lot of wells?
That's what
Or
we're
you
testing to
space-
find out.
Or you space it out, or
Right.
you try to do it all in one shot?
We want to make sure that they're not going to draw down everybody else's wells. That's the reason for the testing.
Yeah, Darby.
Darby, Perk, Emerville Road. You said that the developer would have to notify the residents within the mile. Would that just be like, I guess, how would that just, could they put an announcement in the Mercury, or
No,
would
so-
they would have to put something in the mail?
It requires notice sent to each property owner by first-class mail. In addition, there would be postings at the township website, and then posting on the property to be developed as well. So you would get an individual notice at your home that you have this option. Mhm.
Any other questions?
Township's like, what, a square mile or more? What?
10 miles.
Okay.
10 miles of roads here in Perk.
No, but a mile would be the way a crow flies.
Yeah.
Not by our roads.
Yeah.
Almost, if any, would almost take up the whole township, almost like everybody would get a notice, in theory. Am I thinking of that right?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
The mile radius is quite a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it would cover a good bit of the township.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow.
How does that work in a neighboring township? So based on where this, the one property is, a mile straight, a radius would take you into New Hanover.
Right.
So what is are they responsible for notifying New Hanover? Or they have to then follow New Hanover well water?
So for us, they would have to follow our requirements. So, but again, it would be up to those residents whether they wanted to participate or not.
Okay.
It stops at the border there, I would think, right?
Well, 1 month.
Right.
So the notification that a builder would be responsible for would include into a neighboring township?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna close the public hearing now?
No hearing.
Okay,
Just
we can go
authorize
ahead.
me to forward it to the County Planning
Okay.
Commission for review.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should move forward with that. So I make a motion to approve Ms. Vicky to go ahead and send up the ordinance 2024-03 to the county for review.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I didn't have to say promptly, right? All right, old business, Perk Crossing Water Sewer Project. Aaron, did you want to touch on this here for us?
Yeah, so this item was on here to maintain tracking of it. As we said, we will keep, items on here until they are finished. I and the supervisor, we've talked about this. We believe that, there does need to be a coalition, to review this particular issue. I believe that should be made up of the fire department, the HOA, and the township. And I think, we do have, a report that suggests a couple solutions. Those solutions are very expensive, some over $2 million for a project. And I think it'd be a good thing to explore other avenues to solve this solution that might be a little less costly for our taxpayers. And I think those groups coming together, that would be a good opportunity to explore those different solutions. For example, in Ivy Ridge development, we have fill stations for the fire department there within the development. We could possibly create systems that allow us to do a similar system in Perk Crossing as well, that would be able to create local fill points. That way the fire department is able to have higher operational uptime locally there, and increase their ability to fight fires. And I think that might be a good solution to kind of work towards, because that solution has worked for Ivy Ridge as well. And that way the fire company doesn't have to go to the local pond or something of that nature, increasing their transportation distances and their times between tankers. And so I think that'd be something good to work with, and now that we have a full